Oh man, the biggest hit of the summer is heading to free streaming. Well, it's not so much free, is available to everybody who's subscribed to HBO Max. But yeah, Superman soars to HBO Max tomorrow, in fact. Yes, September 19th, a little over 2 months after it hit after it hit theaters and just, blew up the box office, failing to match 2013's Man of Steel. No, definitely. It was a huge success, right? But Superman will fly onto HBO Max on September 19th. Writer-director James Gunn announced on his social media. God, that's hilarious, right? Because remember when I went to video on demand 31 days after it went into the theater and after the early reports of, people seeing that, it looks like, Superman's being earmarked to come out this upcoming Friday. No, it ended up coming out the Friday, but it was earmarked for like a Tuesday or something, I think on Amazon Prime or something like that. But James Gunn said, no, that's totally wrong. It's going to be so much different than that. And then he comes out and by so much different, I mean a few days early, because we really need to set up Peacemaker season 2, and we just want to get this film in as many hands as possible, and that's totally why we're doing it, and it's not because it's languishing in the theaters. No, of course not. That's not the case at all whatsoever. The film earned $615 million at the worldwide box office over the summer, making it the year's highest grossing comic book movie so far. There's nothing else that's out there. There's no other competition. It's going to go ahead, and it's easily going to get that accolade, because what's the second highest grossing? Fantastic Four, that just barely creeped over 510. I think it just got over Labor Day long weekend, but also, its theatrical run is about to come to a close because it just got its digital date. But we will talk about that as we're going to discuss Marvel in the future. But yes, $615 million, that does seem like quite a lot, in a vacuum, of course. But when you take into account, and we talked about this before, this is the first time since 2014, okay? 2020, obviously, notwithstanding, because nothing was released. This is the first time since 2014 no superhero movie made over $700 million at the box office. Let that sink in for a moment. Warner Brothers released, Superman in theaters worldwide July 11th in its opening weekend. Comic book tentpole grossed $125 million at the domestic box office. So funny, right? Because outside of that one acknowledgement, all of that conversation around the domestic box office, it's very much dried up, and now we're probably starting to move towards, that's $615 million. Yeah, that's not as much as the 665 that Man of Steel made. What's the problem, James? What happened? And now we're going to start to have some conversations about the DCU, especially, and I think by the time the promotional cycle for Supergirl comes around, because at least, you can have a little bit of a degree of separation there, because James Gunn, other than, he's the co-head of the DCU, but he's not directing, he's not writing Supergirl, he just simply approves the script and chills for the movie or project accordingly. Like Peacemaker season 2, when it wraps up, I think there's 1 or 2 more episodes. I legitimately don't know. Nobody's talking about that show at all whatsoever, but the critics really love it, which I'm sure will definitely be the case a couple weeks after it all wraps up. Like, it's not going to have any consequences, not going to have a knock-on effect at all whatsoever moving forward. So yeah, when Supergirl comes out and obviously and very brazenly underperforms, then people are going to start to wonder, oh no, only James Gunn can properly do a Superman movie. Oh no, James Gunn, he's the guy who really understands the character. Kind of like the guy who, in the afterglow of the Superman movie, comes out and says, oh yeah, Green Lantern, because in a couple of the books, he could beat the fuck out of Superman. It's like, this guy, if it wasn't obvious from the script and from the character work from the movie, he hates Superman. He doesn't understand the character, he doesn't like the character. And he's already, just pushed him off to the side because the Lantern show is going to be coming out. I'm not even entirely sure if there is, there's just the vague 2026 release date, but yeah, Superman doesn't stand a chance against the Green Lantern Corps, according to James Gunn. The DCU head told Deadline that Green Lantern can defeat the last Krypton. Well, it should be last Kryptonian, but whatever. Though he didn't specify if it's Guy Gardner, Jon Stewart, or Hal Jordan, all of whom are said to appear in Lanterns. He's pretty powerful. Yeah, Green Lantern is powerful, but Superman he's fucking Superman. Let's keep it a buck. But if that's the way he wants to denigrate the pillar of his DCU right now, you go ahead and do that. Because after Supergirl fails at the box office, after Clayface, I don't even know. I legitimately don't know. It's going to be, once again, you're going from a family-ish sort of friendly Supergirl movie to a hard R body horror film, and then you're running it back around for Superman 2 that's not Superman 2, that is supposed to be a buddy team-up, a Lex Luthor guest starring Superman film. And by that point in time, The bloom is very much going to be coming off that rose, and you theoretically have the Batman Part 2 coming out at the end of the year. And if that, and I would imagine when that performs better than James Gunn's offerings, full stop, outperforms Superman, Man of Tomorrow, Clayface, and Supergirl, we're going to be having some problems, okay? James Gunn and Warner Brothers, they're going to be having some words, because for all of the shit that you can do, okay, HBO Max will launch an in-app Superman takeover, which, okay, for the people that subscribe to HBO and Max, like, you see the shit that trends and is popular on whenever Nielsen puts out a chart, or Luminate, or Samba TV. When was the last time a DC product was on there? Oh, right, Penguin, Matt Reeves' side of the equation. Matt Reeves' DC Universe. Peacemaker didn't. Suicide Squad didn't. Superman didn't. In fact, it was performing so poorly on video on demand services, it was dropped from $30 to $10. It was put on sale in less than a week. But yeah, you go ahead. Go ahead and do this whole Superman takeover for HBO. You can do that for a weekend, but then when people start to go, what the fuck is with this goofy shit? I just want to watch a rerun of Game of Thrones or Friends. Do they have Friends? I don't even know. Just get all this tacky shit off of my screen, because let's be honest, the only people that are actually hyping up the DCU at this point in time, well, it's the shill media. And Variety put out this very confusing article, okay, where Hollywood's biggest film franchises stand. Marvel's diminished, DC's rising. What? And everyone is excited about James Bond. I mean, of the big franchises that they highlight on this one, I'll just go ahead and save you guys a lot of the stupidity that's out here and just simply focus on a couple of graphs in the DC side of this, because over the weekend, like I said before, we're going to be talking about Marvel a little bit, but yeah, we also got to look at the Marvel portion of this as well, because it's quite revelatory. But I only want to focus on, well, how they're categorizing this stuff. Okay, as I say, yeah, sizing up the IP, market saturation. Okay, that's your your y-axis, and then your x-axis is the creative health of the franchise. How do you have, okay, and then also the size of the bubble is the market saturation. So when it comes to James Bond, a spy action thriller, I mean, yeah, there's not a lot of market saturation for that. So it kind of holds its own unique little foothold in the industry. But to say that it has like an 8 commercial potential and a 7.5 creative health, does anybody remember No Time to Die? Like, I understand that, yeah, you're attaching Denis Villeneuve and Stephen Knight to the project to direct and write, respectively. So, yeah, there's a little bit of hope that it could be better than the tail end of Daniel Craig's reign. But if it's more of the same, like, you are truly fucked. Then you look at the rest of this stuff, like Star Trek is obviously in the pits, but Hunger Games, commercial potential, well, you just seen that, the last prequel crash and burn, and that people really only cared about the mainline books that were originally written. So creative health, not really, and potential, not at all. Mission Impossible, like, the franchise is done. I don't know what you're talking about. But Star Wars, massive commercial potential. I'll be very interested to revisit this list come May, when Mandalorian and Grogu utterly flops at the theater. But Jurassic having a smaller like, none of this shit makes sense. MCU's market saturation and higher end commercial potential, but lower creative health than DC, which has a smaller market saturation. Have you seen all of the shit that James Gunn is putting out there? It makes no sense. And then when you take a look at their justification for their position on that poll, I mean, it makes no sense. Box office up. Superman lost money. Nobody talked about Creature Commandos Season 1. Nobody's watching Peacemaker Season 2. Supergirl's gonna fail, and Clayface might end up turning a profit, but that's by simple virtue of it costing like $6,800. But the return on budget, bro, like, you're fucking out of your mind. Even if you just wanted to say that, yeah, Superman ended up being the highest performing comic book movie of 2025. You could say that, yeah, that's a boon in the box office when you take a look at your competition. But the return on budget, you're a fucking liar. So Superman, James Gunn's first film in the rebooted DC universe, grossed less globally than 2013's Man of Steel. Just laying those seeds of doubt right now. Just waiting for them to sprout whenever public sentiment fully starts to turn on DC. David Corenswet's last son of Krypton has blasted past the full breadth of the previous DC regime. How? Aquaman 1 beat it. Man of Steel, BVS, Wonder Woman, the first Shazam movie. I don't know what you're talking about, but okay, everything after the Snyderverse debacle, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, that's true. But Aquaman 2 almost made as much as Superman, if you recall. But okay, Gunn did the most important thing. The first movie he made was really good, said one communications executive. How long is that sentiment going to last? I don't think for much longer. If Batman and Superman are humming at the same time, there's no limit with what they can do. Yeah, because that'll be interesting. Once we get it, like 2027, I know that's a long time away, but it's going to be awfully revelatory. And by that point in time, yeah, I don't know how much boot washing is going to be done by the access media towards Gunn. But while DC has the second highest scores for creative health, uncertainty about its 2026 films place its earning potential scores in the middle of the pack. Yeah, here we go. I wish Supergirl and Clayface weren't the next one, says another marketing executive. It's a pretty confident first step because, yeah, that's when we're going to start to see things turn, okay? Because at this point in time, the only reason, and we go back to this list right here, that DC and the MCU were placed in position as high up and far over on this list as they are right now, because we know that Marvel is hemorrhaging money. DC is probably not going to turn a profit, like I said, outside of Clayface, but its big tentpole movies, until Matt Reeves comes around at the end of 2027, they're going to be leaking money. But the media, they need something to talk about. They need something to be positive toxicity positive peddlers, rather. It's a tough phrase to say for some reason, but whatever. They literally have nothing else. Like the James Bond movie, we don't even have a proper James Bond. We don't have any sort of production schedule laid out. Like, it's going to be few and far between. Star Wars is going to come and go, and everybody will be writing, oh, what happened to Star Wars at the theaters? We just thought that the TV shows were slop. And Jurassic, like, outside of the week that it debuted, nobody talked about that film moving forward. There are no big tentpole franchises right now. They have been raped and murdered and left in a ditch dying by all of the studios over the past decade plus, and now they're just trying to will something into existence, and they picked DC. And honestly, the way that Warner Brothers is being run, you couldn't have picked a lamer horse. But hey, who knows? Maybe old Glue Gun will fucking pull it over the finish line. Maybe that one prognosticator that we talked about a couple of weeks back, maybe he'll be right that Supergirl is going to make more money than Spider-Man. I almost got through that with a straight face. Straight face, something that James Gunn will never have. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.